years, they ruled the sea lanes, armed with little more than desperation, rifles, and small boats. Somali pirates once brought global trade to its knees, hijacking billion-dollar cargo, holding crews for ransom, and outmaneuvering navies across 3 continents. But then, something changed. From the Horn of Africa to the Gulf of Guinea, a silent shift took place, one where the hunted became the hunters, and the pirates who once dictated the rules began to meet forces that wouldn't play their game. This is the story of when Somali piracy met its reckoning, and what happened when the world finally fired back. One, the hijack heard around the world. April 8th, 2009. Off the coast of Somalia, the American cargo ship Maersk Alabama was on a routine mission, delivering food and aid across East Africa. What made it different this time was who came for it. At 2 a.m., 4 Somali pirates approached in a small skiff. Armed with automatic rifles, they scaled the hull and took control of the ship. It was the first hijacking of a US-flagged vessel in nearly 200 years. The crew, trained in anti-piracy drills, locked themselves in the engine room, shutting down power and steering. But Captain Richard Phillips stayed behind. He was taken hostage and forced onto a lifeboat as the pirates fled into open water. For 5 days, the world watched. The standoff became a high-stakes geopolitical flashpoint. The US Navy dispatched the USS Bainbridge, shadowing the tiny lifeboat from a distance. Negotiations dragged, tensions climbed, and then, with a single order from President Obama, the game changed. 3 Navy SEAL snipers, perched on the fantail of the Bainbridge, waited for the moment. The sea rocked, the lifeboat shifted, and in one perfectly timed instant, 3 shots rang out. Each pirate killed simultaneously. Captain Phillips emerged alive. It was a decisive show of force and a signal to pirate networks worldwide. American vessels were no longer soft targets, but off the Somali coast, the waters remained lawless. And this was far from over. Like and subscribe right now, and you'll have amazing luck for the rest of the week. Second Operation Dawn 8, August 2011. The Gulf of Aden had become one of the most dangerous shipping lanes in the world. Somali pirate attacks were escalating, not just in frequency, but in ambition. That's when the Iranian Navy launched one of its boldest anti-piracy operations to date, Operation Dawn 8. It began with a distress call. The MV Nahang, an Iranian merchant ship, had been surrounded by pirates wielding rocket-propelled grenades and automatic weapons. The attackers numbered over 30, aboard several small skiffs, moving fast. Their plan was clear: overwhelm the crew, hijack the vessel, and vanish into international waters. But this time, the response was immediate. The Iranian Navy's 14th Fleet, already deployed in the region, intercepted the call. Within hours, a heavily armed escort ship reached the scene. What followed was a rare, direct naval confrontation. The Iranian warship opened fire. The pirates returned it. For nearly 40 minutes, the 2 sides exchanged rounds. Multiple pirate skiffs were sunk. Survivors jumped into the sea, scrambling to escape. Others were captured and detained aboard the Iranian vessel. The merchant ship and its crew were rescued without casualties. For Iran, the mission was more than a rescue. It was a declaration. Operation Dawn 8 wasn't just a response to piracy, it was a public message. Iran could and would project force in the region without relying on Western coalitions. It also revealed something deeper. Pirate networks were growing bolder, operating in larger groups and adapting faster than anyone expected. And behind them, there were whispers of something bigger: funding, coordination, maybe even warlord oversight. No one knew it yet, but the age of freelance piracy was ending. Third, MV Moscow University, May 5th, 2010. The MV Moscow University, a Russian oil tanker carrying over $50 million in crude, was crossing the Gulf of Aden, escorted by no one. That morning, Somali pirates struck fast. A small flotilla of skiffs swarmed the massive vessel. Armed with AK-47s and RPGs, they boarded and seized control. The 23-member crew managed to barricade themselves in a safe room deep inside the engine compartment, cutting off power and communications. The pirates now held a floating fortress, but with no hostages to control. Word reached Moscow. Within hours, the Russian Navy's Marshal Shaposhnikov, a Udaloy-class anti-submarine destroyer, was ordered to intercept. The standoff didn't last long. Russian special forces rappelled onto the deck by helicopter under cover of darkness, retaking the ship in a textbook assault. The operation was fast, brutal, and effective. 10 pirates were captured. The crew emerged unharmed. But what happened next raised questions that remain unanswered. Official Russian statements claimed the pirates were released in a small boat, without weapons or navigational gear. Hours later, the boat was found adrift, empty. The Kremlin denied any extrajudicial action, but speculations spread. Had the pirates been executed and dumped at sea? For Russia, the message was clear: hijack our ships and you disappear. The Moscow University incident marked a turning point. Piracy wasn't just a criminal enterprise. It had become a test of national resolve. And increasingly, navies weren't just rescuing ships, they were sending warnings. Fourth, pirate attack foiled. March 2011, the Indian Ocean. A merchant vessel under the flag of the United Arab Emirates is en route to the Suez Canal, loaded with cargo and moving at full throttle. To the crew, it feels like just another shift in dangerous waters. But radar picks up something: fast-moving blips closing in from the east. It's a pirate action group, multiple skiffs, launched from a larger mothership. The standard tactic by now. The pirates are armed, aggressive, and trained. They know how to flank, how to board, how to vanish. But this time, they're not alone. Unbeknownst to them, the Royal Navy's HMS Cornwall was already patrolling nearby. The British warship had been operating as part of a multinational task force. Once the distress signal was received, it wasted no time. A helicopter was launched, commandos on board, prepared for engagement. As the pirates approached the merchant vessel, they were hit from above. Warning shots from the helicopter and a wall of sound from naval long-range acoustic devices. Disoriented and scrambling, the pirates tried to flee, but the mothership was already compromised. British forces boarded it without resistance. They found weapons, extra fuel, and evidence linking the crew to multiple previous attacks. A total of 17 suspected pirates were detained. No shots fired, no casualties. This was a rare moment in the piracy war, a clean victory with zero bloodshed. But it also showed how organized the pirate networks had become, using decoy tactics, supply chains, even lookouts. The age of opportunistic pirates with rusted rifles was over. Now, they were operating like maritime militias, and the navies of the world were just beginning to catch up. Pentru Magellan Star, September 8th, 2010. The German-owned cargo ship Magellan Star was cutting through the Gulf of Aden when it suddenly fell silent. Radio contact dropped. The ship's automated tracking slowed. Then, nothing. Another hijacking. 9 Somali pirates had boarded the vessel in the early morning hours. Armed and coordinated, they seized control without resistance. The crew, 9 men in total, managed to barricade themselves deep within the ship's engine room, following emergency protocols. But this time, help was already en route. The USS Dubuque and USS Princeton, part of a US Navy anti-piracy task force, had picked up the ship's distress beacon. On board the Dubuque, a detachment of the elite Marine Force Recon, trained for direct action, boarding, and urban warfare, they prepared for one of the rarest moves in modern naval history, a hostage rescue aboard a seized commercial vessel. At dawn, under cover of coordinated firepower, the Marines launched a helicopter insertion directly onto the deck of the Magellan Star. What followed was swift and surgical. In less than an hour, all 9 pirates were captured alive. No shots fired, no injuries. The entire crew rescued unharmed. The operation was a first, a successful, non-lethal recapture of a cargo ship by US forces during a live hijacking. It demonstrated what few believed was possible, that military precision and restraint could coexist in the chaos of pirate waters. But it also raised the stakes. For the pirates, it was proof that not all ships would be easy targets. For the navies, it was confirmation that the game had changed. Fast-moving tactical teams were no longer optional. They were now essential. 6. Taipan Rescue, April 5, 2010. The German container ship MV Taipan was 500 miles off the Somali coast, steaming through open waters when it was attacked. A group of 10 Somali pirates, armed and aggressive, boarded the vessel in broad daylight. But what they didn't expect was what came next. As the crew activated lockdown procedures and retreated to a fortified citadel, a distress call went out. The Dutch Navy frigate HNLMS Tromp, already operating nearby under NATO command, picked it up. Within hours, the frigate was on the scene. The pirates had the bridge, but not the crew. And time was running out. Rather than wait, the Dutch Marines acted. Using fast raiding craft, they closed in on the Taipan. Covering fire from the frigate's main guns, pinned the pirates in place. Then came the boarding. Dutch commandos scaled the side of the massive ship and moved quickly through its interior. Close quarters, live weapons, real danger. But the operation was flawless. All 10 pirates were captured alive. No shots fired by the Marines. No crew harmed. The Taipan was secured, and its cargo, millions in goods, protected. What made this rescue unique wasn't just the success. It was the coordination, the speed, the refusal to stand down. European navies had often played a support role in anti-piracy operations. This time, the Dutch led from the front. It was a message that didn't need translation. Pirates had started the day in control of a ship. They ended it zip-tied, disarmed, and humiliated on camera. And somewhere in Somalia, others were watching. 7th Danish tanker hijacking, March 25, 2021. The Torm Alexandra, a Danish-owned oil tanker, was moving through the Gulf of Guinea, a region that had quietly overtaken the Horn of Africa as the world's piracy hotspot. At 7:45 a.m., radar detected 2 high-speed boats approaching from the starboard side. The crew knew what that meant. Armed men were coming fast, and they weren't there to negotiate. Within minutes, pirates had climbed aboard. The crew triggered the alarm and locked down in the ship's citadel. For hours, the attackers roamed the decks, smashing doors, searching cabins, desperate to find hostages, leverage, a payout. But the ship's systems had been disabled, the bridge abandoned. What they'd captured was just metal. Back in Denmark, Corporate Command activated emergency protocols. Satellite tracking was already online. Naval forces in the region, including the Nigerian Navy and the Danish frigate HDMS Esbern Snare, were notified. But this was a different kind of standoff. These pirates weren't desperate. They were strategic. Intelligence later revealed the group had likely been hired out. Mercenaries for a larger criminal operation targeting Western oil routes. They had communications, backup fuel, and escape plans. And after failing to breach the citadel, they vanished just as quickly as they came. The Tom Alexandra's crew emerged unharmed, but the hijacking raised alarms across Europe. This wasn't the chaotic opportunism of early Somali raids. It was methodical, professional. A Danish warship was now on permanent patrol in West African waters, but the damage was done. Piracy had evolved, and this time it wasn't happening off Somalia. It was moving west. 8. MV Courier, March 2009. The MV Courier, a German container ship, was cruising north of the Seychelles, deep in pirate-infested waters, when it was ambushed. Two skiffs, high-powered and loaded with armed pirates, moved in fast. Within minutes, the vessel was under fire. Bullets struck the bridge windows. Rocket-propelled grenades were launched. The crew scrambled to initiate lockdown protocols, but the situation deteriorated rapidly. The call for help went out. Nearby, the Greek Navy frigate Sara, part of the European Union naval force, responded. A helicopter was dispatched immediately. On board were German Navy commandos from the elite GSG-9 unit, trained for maritime hostage rescue and counter-terrorism. They didn't hesitate. The helicopter dropped flares, fired warning shots, and descended on the skiffs in a coordinated aerial strike. The pirates, startled and overwhelmed, attempted to retreat. But the GSG-9 team was already boarding. It was one of the first times European special forces had carried out a direct maritime assault on an active hijacking. 7 pirates were captured. Their weapons, ladders, and GPS equipment were confiscated. And the MV Courier, it survived, damaged but intact. No crew were harmed. This mission didn't make global headlines like others, but for military strategists and pirate networks alike, it was a turning point. European forces weren't just patrolling anymore, they were fighting back. And more importantly, they were sending a message. European shipping lanes would not become easy prey. The pirates came expecting ransom. They left in handcuffs. 9. Pirates attack warship, May 15, 2009. Somewhere off the coast of Somalia, a group of pirates launched what would become one of the boldest and most baffling mistakes in modern maritime history. They attacked a warship. Mistaking the French naval vessel FS Nevos for a commercial cargo ship, the pirates closed in with speed and aggression. Skiffs moved in formation, armed with AK-47s and rocket-propelled grenades. Their plan was textbook: suppress the crew, board fast, and take control. But the Nevos wasn't a freighter. It was a Floreal-class frigate, equipped with radar, heavy machine guns, and a full naval crew on alert status. As the pirates approached, warning shots rang out. Still, they advanced, either not recognizing the threat or convinced they could overwhelm it. They were wrong. The French Navy responded with controlled, overwhelming force. The warship disabled the lead skiff, deploying a helicopter to cut off retreat. Commandos quickly boarded the remaining boats. The pirates surrendered, stunned, and disarmed. 11 were captured. Several others were pulled from the water after their skiffs were destroyed. Among the confiscated items were GPS devices, weapons, ladders, and evidence linking them to earlier hijackings in the region. For the French military, the event was surreal, a real-time ambush by attackers who never realized they were outgunned from the start. The incident became a symbol of piracy's recklessness in that era. Young men, poorly informed, driven by desperation or false intelligence, taking increasingly dangerous risks. But this one crossed a line. They hadn't just attacked a ship, they declared war on a navy. 10th Indian Navy saves the day. November 18th, 2023. The Arabian Sea. A commercial vessel issues a distress call. Pirates had struck again. This time, they weren't targeting a cargo ship. It was the MV Ruan, a bulk carrier flying the flag of Bulgaria. The crew had been taken hostage, and the ship was now drifting towards Somali waters. Enter the Indian Navy. What followed wasn't just a rescue, it was a masterclass in maritime strategy. The INS Kolkata, a guided missile destroyer, had been tracking pirate movements for days. Intelligence indicated that this was no isolated hijacking. The pirates had seized control of the vessel and were using it as a mothership, preparing for further raids across the region. The Indian Navy launched an operation spanning over 40 hours. Surveillance drones tracked the ship's movements. Special operations teams were placed on standby. Communications were attempted, ignored, and jammed. Then, with the MV Ruan just hours from Somali territorial waters, the order came down. Strike. Commandos from the Indian Marine Commandos Marcos fast-roped onto the deck under aerial cover. Resistance was minimal. The pirates, caught off guard and outmaneuvered, surrendered. All 17 crew members were rescued, unharmed. No shots fired, no lives lost. But the mission was about more than one ship. It sent a message to pirate networks trying to re-establish control of key sea lanes. The Indian Navy was not just present, it was proactive. For decades, Western forces dominated anti-piracy patrols. But in 2023, it was an Indian flag flying high over a reclaimed ship, and the world took notice. These weren't just rescues, they were signals. From the decks of commercial tankers to the halls of global command centers, the message grew louder. Piracy would no longer be tolerated as the cost of business. But why were so many of these stories forgotten? Perhaps because they weren't victories born in boardrooms or press briefings, but in split-second decisions, untelevised firefights, and the silence after surrender. In the end, it wasn't just ships that were reclaimed, it was the sea itself, and the unspoken promise that not every shadow on the horizon gets to strike twice.